8 additional inputs. Adjustable tension anti-stick drift Hall effect thumbsticks, a clicky faceplate with adjustable clicky triggers, a rubber grip, banging software, and one of the fastest wireless response times I've ever seen, all for just 80 bucks. Many months ago, Flydigi sent me the original Vader 5 Pro. Since I was in purgatory, I wasn't uploading, and thank God I wasn't, because the first model was a Peugeot. The paddles committed scooter ankle, the adjustable tension thumbsticks had dementia and would lose tension on higher settings over time, and there were stick issues related to the firmware. Since then, Flydigi has made a revised model with paddles featuring metal materials, a firmware update to address the sticks, new switches for the triggers for some goddamn reason, and a stick ratcheting mechanism to keep the thumbstick tension ring locked in place. The best controller for shooters is so fucking back, and so am I. We're doing some comparisons today, response time testing, teardown shots will be strewn about the video. If you want more answers to your questions, you can interrogate me at 3 p.m. EST today when I go live on the channel. Nobody will give you a more detailed review, but I'm not always the easiest to listen to, so make like a tree and sit the hell down, the movie's starting. Wait! The Steam controller was just given a release date, so this video is sponsored by PCBWay. PCBWay is a PCB manufacturer with over a decade of experience. They can manufacture complex PCBs for projects of any kind. They also offer 3D printing and CNC machining, so they're a one-stop shop if you would like to make an RC car, a controller, or if you'd even like to make your own RAM or GPU due to recent prices. Check out the one I made. PCBWay has assisted with some projects on the channel previously, and they did some amazing work. Whatever your project may be, you can visit the link in the description to check them out. A big thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video, and we are back to it. The Flydigi Apex 4 and 5 both feature self-detonating thumbsticks according to customers, but with luck, this issue has not followed the Vader 5 Pro. And unlike the Apex, you don't have to skin the Vader's face to adjust its tension. You just twist a volume dial and get 25 to 80 grams of force, according to my force gauge, making this the lowest and highest tension Hall effect stick in one. And even with this feature removed, they still perform well with a resolution of around 1300. There is a lot of tremor though, so there's some sensor noise coming from something, but overall they're solid. Flydigi's been continuously making weird ass thumbsticks, force flex, lever action. The name continues to change, but the idea stays the same. Externally tensioned Hall effect magnetic thumbsticks that aim to kill future stick drift. The standard physical potentiometer sensor has been replaced with a Hall effect sensor soldered to the main board, and the internal recentering spring has been placed outside under a different set of forces, hopefully producing a longer lasting stick. The ratcheting mechanism is actually just a piece of plastic. It fits in between the ridges of the tension ring and stops it. And if you need to replace the thumbstick entirely, it's like 5 screws and it just falls out like you did from your mother. This build of Windows is you are starting to piss me off. Anyways, yeah, these sticks are that good shit, you feel me? You get the basic software settings as well, like custom dead zones, circularity, and custom curves, but there are an infinite number of other settings for the sticks if you just click here. It's the same story as the Vader 4 Pro. I'm not making another 8-minute goddamn segment on this. This setting, called the rebounce algorithm, acts like fucking VSync for controllers. It takes the thumbsticks and cranks the response time from 2 to 3 milliseconds wired and wireless to 13 to 14 milliseconds. So keep this off. A lot of people have noted that other settings also reduce pulling rate. We'll be going over and testing that in a segment here later. For now, here are all the stick settings I currently use. You can adjust these to your own style if you need to. These just feel comfortable to me, but keep in mind that older games may require lower bit rates to feel good. I would go over the recentering issues people have had with their Vader 5 Pros, but my Vader 5 Pro does not have that issue, so there is nothing for me to test against. To keep your thumbs firmly grasped onto these sticks, there are a total of 8 additional buttons, which is hilarious because the ABXY and D-pad buttons are clicky, yet with 4 rear inputs, 2 front ends, and 2 additional ABXY buttons, you may not even actually need to use the clicky faceplate buttons? Why am I here? You may not even need to use the faceplate buttons, period. All these can be remapped to controller inputs, keyboard and mouse inputs, whatever you like. But there is no on-the-fly remapping. Why the fuck? The Vader 5S has on-the-fly remapping, but the 5 Pro doesn't. You guys suck wieners. Also, I've pointed this out before. but C and Z are as efficient as running a gas engine on diesel. The last time a controller had 2 extra ABXY buttons, I was like negative 1.5 years old. It's not 2001 anymore. Thankfully, the rest were designed by someone with a sound mind, so they're incredibly comfortable, and if you want the Vader 5S treatment, you can remove the 2 paddles. I can play Fag Night without taking my thumbs off of the thumbsticks. It is a dream with this many inputs. But I can't ignore the elephant in the room. The paddles on many Vader 5 Pro models have actually broken. Recently, there's been an effort to correct this by replacing the plastic actuator with a metal one. A huge thank you to this comment for letting me know to look for this, and a huge thank you to Flydigi for actually working on a controller after it's already been released. Which doesn't sound like a compliment. I don't think it is. Moving on to less interesting things, the Clicky ABXY and D-pad buttons have basically been the same since the Vader 3 Pro. A nice click, decent stability and travel distance, with a little bit of fluff. The D-pad predictably kind of has a double clicking issue. It's not as bad as the original G7 Pro, but it's still not my favorite. And weirdly, the force is a bit strange on this. It features 100 grams of force horizontally and 150 grams vertically, while ABXY features an ultralight 70 gram press. These buttons are also the same as previous releases in terms of hardware. There's not many significant differences here. C and Z don't feature any clicky switches, as if that would make them any more usable. The only other clicky feature on this device is the adjustable clicky triggers. When activated, they take 75 grams of force to press, which is a little bit lighter than the average, which is around 85 to 90. They have a little travel, but nothing significant, and they don't take a hydraulic press to actuate. They're also far better than the adaptive triggers on the Apex 5, an opinion I'm sure to infuriate a number of Ninrods. These are faster for competitive games, and after using the DualSense, every third-party adaptive trigger feels like garbage. You could adjust these triggers, or really anything else on the Vader 5 Pro, in the Space Station 4.0 software. Why is some of it in Chinese? It has a ton of customization, some of which I went over earlier with the sticks, but you can remap like literally every part of this controller to anything. You can make the ABXY button say fuck if you want. You could even do mouse inputs. The only thing it can't do is turn on your PC, although I'm sure some fucking YouTuber with 1 million subscribers and way too much time could figure that out. If we swap over to this tab, we have Gyro, which is much better on the Vader 5 Pro than it is on the majority of third-party Pro controllers. In fact, I'd say it's in its own league. But still, for really precise gyro games or for shooters or things that require a lot of accuracy and consistency, I always carry 2 Glocks on me, since these have much better gyro than any of the other third-party controllers I've ever reviewed. There is one tiny problem though. It's not with the gyro, it has to do with the software. The problem has to do with certain settings and response time. The stock response times, wired and wireless, at 1000 Hertz are immaculate. However, if you remap any button to any special keybind, this decreases the polling rate to 500 Hertz, which reduces the response time by an insane like 15%. So it isn't that much to worry about if you aren't a sweat. I feel like I have to mention this again, but the stick rebound setting, designed to counter the stick recentering bounce back you get, this also increases response times for the sticks specifically, but only by a measly 460%. So that is something to worry about. I tried testing Bluetooth and switch mode, but the Vader would not actually go into either of those modes, no matter how hard I tried or whatever button combinations I did. It was just being a bitch. Anyways, Flydigi advertised 3 milliseconds for the buttons and 4 milliseconds for the sticks, and that is dead accurate. Probably because they're partnered with John Punch. Or at the very least, they consult him for testing with the Prometheus 82 device, which I used here today. So yeah, Vader 5 Pro, one of the fastest overall. You son of a bitch. Vader 5, one of the fastest, wired and wireless, and fuck the rebound setting for making my job complicated. But wait, there's more. My job's about to get a whole hell of a lot more complicated. The Vader 5 Pro has a plethora of software features that its Vader 5S counterpart does not. It also has 2 additional buttons, wireless connectivity, and only cost about $20 more. So for the PC nerd, the choice is very obvious. With the Apex 5, things are less clear, but they are crystal clear for me. I have been waiting like almost 2 years to get this off my chest. The Vader 5 Pro makes the Apex 5 look like balls at twice the price, since all you get for that ridiculous price hike is Flydigi's claim that it's their flagship device. You get thumbsticks that require skinning the face of the apex in order to adjust the tension. You get adaptive triggers that are worse than just paying $70 for a DualSense. And finally, you get a tube TV that helps suck up batteries faster than the Tesla.
Some of y'all drive Teslas, can't get no pussy, dorks.
It was the same story with the Vader 4 Pro. It was half of the price of the Apex 4 and had all of the landmark features. And better triggers, which makes it better for competitive games. The same story follows the 5th generation. A controller that's half the price and doesn't have gimmicky triggers. With fake trigger locks. Oh, just stop pressing the trigger lock mode so hard. The trigger lock mode works. No, the fuck it does not. It also has a screen that, for PC players, is mainly there to look cool, but I imagine for like Switch people, that sounds offensive. They'll probably use it to adjust like settings because they don't have access to the software. I get you immersive game weirdos with the triggers and shit, but most people who I'm talking to as a reviewer, most people do not need to pay 2 Vader 5 Pros for one Vader 5 Pro with fancy triggers, a tiny screen, worse battery life because of both of those features, and thumbsticks that are more cumbersome to adjust tension on. I never got the hype around the Apex 5. Unless you inject lame-ass marketing into it, the controller makes no sense. With all that being said, I think we can finally get to the conclusion. The best controller for shooters is not only back, but still retains its crown in my opinion, and is my go-to for PC daily. People gawk at the G7 Pro or G7 Pro 8K, but this features the 4 rear buttons we've been looking for, and adjustable tension thumbsticks for the same price as the base model G7 Pro. While the sticks aren't as high resolution as the G7 and the response time isn't as fast as the G7 Pro 8K, those two main features, the additional rear buttons and the adjustable tension thumbsticks, are, in my opinion, a bigger difference maker for gameplay for most people. At least that's my take on it for most people. Pros will likely benefit from something like the G7 Pro 8K because it's so fast. Maybe, I don't know. I have it. Can I show it? I make these comparisons with the Vader and the G7 lineup because most people see the G7 lineup of controllers as the pinnacle. And I truly think the Vader 5 not only challenges that, but in some instances supersedes it. The Vader 5 and the G7 lineup battle it out at the top of the food chain for pro controllers currently. And I wouldn't be upset to hear anyone buying either. They sit well above their competition. But I do have to be honest about Flydigi as well, because neither they or this controller are perfect. Flydigi said the Apex 5 had improved thumbstick materials to stop the reliability issues from the Apex 4 from reoccurring. But those issues have cropped back up on the Apex 5, so it's not unreasonable to assume that the old issues with the Vader 5 Pro could potentially reappear on the new revised Vader 5 Pro. On top of that, there's no way to know if you're going to get a revised V2 Vader 5 Pro when you order it. You might get a V1. So I would never and could never recommend the Apex 4, Apex 5. And while I can recommend the Vader 5 Pro, I would recommend really being cautious, or just sending it back if you don't get a revised model. You can tell the revised model via the packaging, which has these little indicators for the paddles, and the feel and sound of the adjustable tension thumbsticks. If you feel and hear that little ratcheting noise, that's the V2. So, the best controller for shooters, the best pro controller, maybe period? Yeah. Perfect. No. There will be links to this device. I don't put up links for pre-orders because I don't fuck with pre-orders. Wait for my review on this if you're gonna buy one or not. I mean, it's a pretty good deal for really fucking sweaty players. There will be links for the Vader in the description. Some of these links will be affiliates if you would like to support the channel. If you'd like to support the channel directly, I have a Patreon where you can get these videos early, as well as member shoutouts, a monthly stream for patrons, behind the scenes content, and I think I'm going to add polls here sometime soon. I really can't thank you guys enough for the support on these videos. We have G7 Pro 8K coming up on May 8th. If my Steam controller does not ship in before then, if I order it the millisecond it comes out on the 4th and it arrives the 6th, the G7 Pro 8K will be waiting. And yes, I'll be doing a video on my PlayStation 2 graphics card thing. Don't worry. I love you guys. I hope to see you guys in all of those future projects. Take it easy.